Hey, welcome everybody to Monday's chess stream here on lichess.org and Twitch. I'm International Master William Paschall. We're playing blitz and classical chess with you guys. 5 to 8 minutes with a small increment, or chess 960. We have a challenge from Plucro for chess 960. I'd like to start with that, get kind of warmed up, because the other games, well, actually Robren is pretty strong, so let's get this chess 960 first, and then we'll go to the other two. Alright, we're going to get started. I like the chess 960 first because it's usually not that tactical. I don't mind starting with this game, kind of get warmed up a little bit before we take the regular chess challenges. Usually the chess 960, the game starts a little bit more strategically, not as open positions. So while I'm still not fully awake here, we'll play this to get started. Okay, so f4 opening up his rook. He's got the queen on g1. Thought I'd just play b6. I'm naturally kind of gravitating toward hypermodernism when I play. I'm a player who I do play a lot of hypermodern type of openings. By hypermodern, what I mean is openings that attack the center without occupying it with pawns, allowing the opponent to create a strong pawn center and then later trying to outflank or undermine it. Plucro plays b3, copying me now. This is very typical in chess 960. I mean, fianchetto bishops like this are pretty hard to deny. I could have played b5 instead of b6. We've got the bad knight, very bad knights. Let's try something interesting here. f6, nullifying his bishop on a1. Welcome everyone to my chess stream. We are streaming from 10 to 12:30 CET, Central European Time. That's basically GMT plus 1. We had a simul last night. Every Sunday I do a simul here on lichess, and yesterday was no exception. 20 players. We had some mouse problems. Ended up losing, I think, 3 games and drawing 5. So it was a tough going yesterday. Now E3. E3 is sort of blocking his queen, but opening up that bishop on D1. I'm not really worried about a check on H5 per se. It looks like a bird's open. He's trying to play the birds. Bird's opening. Henry Bird, right? Please bishop f3. Alright, we're just gonna play d5 at this point. It's controversial. It does block my bishop on a8, but his bishop on f3 is not really much better, so I thought we'll establish a kind of classical pawn center here and go from there. And then there's knight d4. Plucro's very fast. I didn't really pick up on this earlier on, but seems like he's quite a fast player lately. Good morning, guys. It's Monday. Castling queenside for white. And he never really takes too much time on any one move. I mean, he doesn't move like lightning, but that's the deceptive thing about this opponent, that more or less, he never takes too much time on a single move. He's moving rapidly, consistently, never ever taking a long think at any point. Very systematic play here by white. Not necessarily correct, but systematic. So I'm thinking about castling queenside as well. You've been playing bullet this morning. Yeah, he's pretty strong in bullet. 1800 in bullet. I have no idea what my bullet rating would be. I don't want to know. I don't think it's good for your chess game. Alright. Maybe I'll castle queenside myself. I think that I should consider playing e4 though. Maybe I should play it right away. it tremendously changes the position here. But I really try to emphasize thinking and not just moving without thinking. Very, very nice coordination of the pieces for Blue Crow here. Look how amazingly coordinated his pieces are. Bishop on the long diagonal, another bishop on the long diagonal. The rooks are connected. His queen is not too bad. The knights are getting in the game. He looks much more coordinated than me at this point. Now, trying to castle, but not allowed. Okay, now we have problems with castling with the mouse. I've lost 2 games in a row against Blue Crow. It's funny, after, I don't know, being 28.5 to 0, 20.5 to a half, he got 2 wins in a row. And he's playing well again. Looks like he might win a 3rd one in a row. I don't really know what I'm going to do here. Looks like I'm probably close to lost already. To make a very awkward move here. This is probably winning position for white after 96 strategically. That'll be 3 in a row for Blue Crow after being a half out of 29. Something has changed. Gladys Troll said, I hate Twitch, it crashes everything every time. I don't have that problem. But I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why that may or may not be the case. Well, I pretty much hate my position. Blue Crow played perfectly here. Looks like we're basically just lost. Lost already. Maybe I can sacrifice an exchange or something. How fluidly he plays, and instantly. Rook is going to get trapped. I feel like I'm playing a very, very strong master here. Both bishops on the long diagonals. Coordination perfect for white. The other knight bouncing back into e2. Blue Crow, have you gotten better, or is it my imagination? You just instant moves. I don't feel like I have very good chances here. Black is just lost in this position. Perfect play by white. I'm just going to resign here. I don't think I can survive this. You know, if you look at the analysis board, I think that white played almost perfectly. It's +3, +2, +5. Here, I don't know. I don't agree. I think I'm like lost here. Computer doesn't mind this position. It looks grotesque to me. I don't know. I just can't bear to play this position with the knight on e6. I can't believe the engine is saying that I'm okay here. This looks just disgusting. I hate my position. I guess I resigned prematurely, but I don't even know what to do in this position. There's no way to get rid of this knight on e6. I mean, You're threatening eventually to play g5, and I have no plan. I don't know. I guess I resigned prematurely, but I don't feel like playing this position. It's too disgusting. All right, we're going to play with Lavalanchula. Lavalanchula. That position was just... I can't bear to play that position. It's just too ugly. Rather just resign. Sorry. I mean, I can sack the exchange, but I don't have any compensation, realistically, for sacking the exchange there. Computer says he's just like half a pawn better, but black almost can't do anything. It's just... It's a very, very unpleasant position. Okay, so time for some real chess. We have to start making the time controls longer. I think if I play Plucro in the future, I'm going to ask that if we play Chess 960, we make the time control 7 minutes or longer, because it feels really stupid to play 5-minute blitz in Chess 960. I don't have time to think that fast. Chess 960 requires a lot of extra thinking, because it's not a typical kind of position you'd normally play. I don't play bullet chess. Bishop e3, yeah, it's a variation I've played a lot. My compensation is my I am title and in-game technique. Man, my king is more open in that position than his is. I mean, I've played c5 and d5. I feel like he has compensation for my material if I sacrifice the exchange there. I was surprised that the engine didn't really like White's game that much, but he has virtually no weaknesses. All of his pieces are working. Looks good. So, I don't remember if we played this with this particular opponent before, but it's been a very popular variation here on my stream. I think I've had 5 or 6, 7 games in this particular line. Yeah, I don't think that Chess 960 is very fun in the 5-minute variety. After playing that game, you know, you can go for 4 in a row tomorrow, Plucro. Alright, so we're going to take which way here with the knight on b4. Lavalanchula knows this line. Strange. I mean, it's a very rare line. Most people don't know it. It's possible I played it with him before. I can't really recall. There were definitely some players I've played this with, but it doesn't appear. There I was white. There I was white, I guess. I don't remember. Maybe not. Maybe I was black in that one. It doesn't show you. That I remember. This I don't remember. And this I don't remember. It could have been one of these that we played already. Three in a row, 2, although I deserved them less somewhat. What does that mean? You deserved them less somewhat. Bishop f2 was the best move according to the lichess opening book. We had the same game against someone already. Maybe it was Lavalanchula. I had Lavalanchula. It's too hard to say the 3-4 syllables. It's better to say Lavalanchula. It sounds like tarantula, and it's easier to say. Maybe it was against Constant Change, who hasn't shown up yet today. Though I don't think he would play this line. I don't remember him playing this line, actually. But I got into really bad time pressure against someone here. Better just to memorize the moves, I guess. Well, Plucro, the way you're playing now, I think you have a good chance. E6. You'd think it was like the main line of the Najdorf. It's not a Najdorf. I don't know what it is. I guess it could be like it could be a kind of Najdorf. F3 A6, but in the Najdorf you don't put the knight on C6. I mean, that's the whole point of the Najdorf, not to put the knight on C6. So I already was here with the computer post-morteming a game, I remember, like a week or two ago. But I still don't recall what the deal was with this. Oh, I remember now. It had something to do with... I thought it had something to do with me playing like bishop knight f6, maybe. Which was a new move. He's only 3.5 minutes ahead of me. Just bullet mostly. I don't know why so many bullet players are attracted to my stream, actually. We don't play any bullet. I guess they like to beat me on time. I guess they feel like they have a chance to run me over on the clock. Yeah, I don't know. The chess 960, I don't play much. It's alright. Just for something different. I'm not a big aficionado. Chess is hard enough to master. I don't need too many variants to have to worry about. So basically we're following a game I had like 2 weeks ago. I think I played knight f6, but I'm not sure now. I know that I might have played g6 in the not so distant future. That doesn't seem... The problem is if you're wondering, I mean, if I play bishop c5, white plays king h1, threatening knight takes e6. If I play bishop e7, white has knight to f5 there with a better pawn structure. Yeah, this is probably the same game, the exact game I had. I believe this is the exact game. Yes, he's following the exact game I had 2 weeks ago. Funny. I guess he prepared it or something. Or it was against him. It's not that likely he would play the exact same game that someone else played against me through 14 moves. In this position, I was recommended a different move by the computer. It's the exact same game. Maybe it was the exact same opponent. I just forgot. You know what's really annoying is Facebook with these little pop-ups that you don't really want, but they just like, you're not even logged on to Facebook. And can you disable, there must be a way to disable that. Does somebody know how to disable the Facebook pop-ups that just pop up when you're not logged on to Facebook? There has to be a setting to do that. If I had played this previously with Lavantula, I understand that he would repeat the same exact moves, but it's a little weird if that game wasn't against him. that he would play the exact same first 15 moves that someone else played against me in this obscure variation. Yeah, no could. I agree. Bullet is silly. It's absolutely just like chess drugs. It's like a drug addiction. And I mean, there's a lot of better things you could do to improve your game. It's okay for sometimes, but even if you wanted to improve your tactics, you'd be better off doing like chess problems and stuff. I think it's just an excuse, to mess around. This is the correct sacrifice. It's exact perfect play by white thus far. And now, like, I don't remember if I've played king f8 or bishop takes e6 followed by king f8. That's also like only move. I guess I'm just lost here. We don't have too many challenges. Constant Change is here. Good to see you, Constant Change. None of our regulars. Chessa Turco, sort of regular. Rabren. I didn't mean to neglect you, Rabren. Well, now I have knight d7. I think white just missed a forced win there. He had the easy forced win. I mean, maybe this is winning too, I'm not sure, but I think he's playing bullet chess. We have to stop queen f6 check. I don't really enjoy these 5 games, the 5-minute games, as much as the 7 or 8 minutes. We just don't have enough time. Here I could play king c8. There's just not really enough time to commentate when we do the 5-minute games. It's hard enough to do the 7-8-minute games. But bullet chess here, interesting position. I think with the 5-second increment I can handle this. He's gonna play it out. Really? Okay. Interesting. Just kind of a waste of time. Okay, we're gonna play Rabran finally. I made him wait. Strong player, but I wanted to get warmed up because he's already 3-0 against me. Good luck. Good luck, Rabran. I hope he's here. He's been waiting. So, you just played a few games to warm up. Oh, good. All right. You don't need to be warmed up. You already beat me 3 times in a row. He's very, very hard to kill. I had a couple good positions against him, but he never seems to make blunders. He just he'll let you get an advantage sometimes, but never makes big mistakes. He makes small mistakes, but okay. So, all right, we'll play our mainline English opening, safer repertoire. Play G6. He seems to like the accelerated dragon. We did have one accelerated dragon where I blundered. So D4. Though there he doesn't even have to take. I mean, he could actually play Bishop G7. But takes, knight takes, Bishop G7. Yeah, we get an accelerated dragon. He could play other things like the Gingy Indian. Well, it's not really a Gingy Indian. Yeah, he has to play the modern. This would actually be a modern defense. If I don't play D4 or E4 here, though... Actually, E4 is interesting. I don't feel like you can get too much against this move order if you don't force black to play the Marazzi. He played Bishop G7, wow. Okay, cool. So, now for my part, I have to play D5, otherwise white's not going to get anything here. I'm already 50 seconds behind on the clock. Looks like it's a Benoni. I just have to play faster, though. I think it would be good to do a stream with longer time controls. Like, maybe 15-0. Actually, it amounts to the same thing, the 15-0, I guess. Maybe a longer increment would be interesting, too. I just feel like I don't have enough time to talk about the games in the depth I would like to. Rabran here playing, this is all well-known theory. Particularly in recent years, before his death, Gashimov was probably, Fulgar Gashimov was the big authority on this for black. The analysis even like 15 years ago was extensive with B5. But I'm trying to stay out of the main territory here, because it's easy for black to memorize a lot of lines in that B5 knight takes B5 knight takes E4 is the main line. There's other permutations, but it may or may not be slightly better for white. It's probably like basically worked out to a draw. There's like one after knight takes B5 in this position, knight takes E4. There's like one variation that's worked out to a rook ending that Gashimov used to play with black. It's been actually, I think, analyzed out to a rook ending where black's like down a pawn or something, but it's basically a draw. 35 moves deep, like all already known. I usually play 5 to 8 minutes with a small increment. Yeah, nothing less than 3. A 3 to 5 second increment. I'd prefer the 5 second increments with the 5-minute games, and the shorter. Actually, yeah, Rabran normally I ask for 3 second increments. He's not really accustomed to playing on the stream, so he made it 2. It's not really enough increment. I prefer the 3 second increment because you can just kind of play for time with a 7-2, whereas a 7-3 not so much. So I think the 7-3 is a better increment. And normally I ask everyone to challenge me 7-3. So if you guys want a challenge to the similar time control, make it 7-3. I think the point got through there. Guys, I have a YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. If you'd like to, check it out. Every week I usually put up like a new, a different video, basically instruction video, whether it's reviewing some games from the stream. Last week I did a thematic opening review video where I went over a couple of games where I played the King's Indian defense. We also upload all the live streams to my YouTube channel. How much of chess is memorization of positions when someone gets better at the game? Well, there are really like 2 phases of the game, the opening and the end game, where there can be a significant amount of memorization involved. End game positions, like theoretical end game positions, are commonly important to memorize. The other one is openings. This is a strange move, knight a6. He's allowing me to play knight to d4, which looks dangerous for black. But I guess he just has bishop d7 there, so e4 is always under surveillance. In the meantime, he's playing knight c5. I don't really want him to play knight c5. So I think rather than routinely play knight d4 here, I mean, knight c5 is not earth-shaking. No, 7-3 is really, yeah, the longest. And 8-3, Rabran. 8-3 is the longest time control I play. The 7-3, the 3 second increment, I use basically 3 or 5. But the 5, just with the 5-5, exactly. And then if it's going to be 7, then I do 8-3 or 7-3. Now, just to let you know. We got to keep it like uniform so people understand the rules. But I feel like 8-2, it's the 2 seconds I can deal with. One is really like you can flag people with that time control. He instantly played bishop b7. Why would he instantly play bishop b7? That's a strange move to like insta-play, isn't it? He just instantly played that. What does it do? Why does he want to put his bishop on that diagonal? Must see something I don't see. Kind of strange. Why not bishop d7? It's a mystery. I mean, okay, his d6 pawn could get attacked, but like by what, you know? What's going to attack his d6 pawn if he puts his bishop on d7? Seems like it looks both ways from there, so I guess I'm just thinking about it, you know, looking into too deeply, but knight takes b5. Never really have any great tactics here. I feel like I'm playing a little routinely myself, but now we're down to blitz game again. You know, it starts out with 7 minutes, but it's down to 3. There's no time for perfect play. As I said earlier, this a3 move I played isn't really critical, but people don't don't know the quote-unquote refutation offhand usually. Not sure there is one, but it's just kind of a safe way to avoid the mainline theory. But bishop e7 played very quickly there. I was thinking about bishop d7 and trying to keep his b5 pawn protected. But the purpose of bishop b7 might be very deep. Like if he wins this pawn on e4, then I don't know, then my pawn on d5 becomes a target to the bishop on b7. He's not interfering with his queen, protecting d6. Maybe I'm just overanalyzing the situation. Yeah, I think that memorization is overrated, but at the higher levels. I mean, I think it's very nice that Neonsky, he actually went out of his way to say at the advanced levels or whatever, you know. I think memorization is overrated at the lower levels. A lot of people think it's a good idea to memorize a lot of moves in the opening. And I think oftentimes too much information is a bad thing for beginners. You know, they try to play these really... they try to play like really complex openings that objectively are a little bit too difficult for them to handle, for one thing. Never get any tactics. I kind of borrowed this from Yermolinsky. Once I saw him do this, not kind of, I directly borrowed this plan of bishop e3. We should be honest, I guess. I directly borrowed this plan from Alex Yermolinsky, who I saw do this, and I've used it extensively in my own games. Rather than putting the knight on d4, the bishop is really powerfully centralized. You can knock out, you know, the bishop on g7, some attacking chances with the queen coming down this diagonal. I mean, in a vacuum, White has a good game here because he has better pawn structure. Now e5. Now, obviously, we could have e5 at some point, but it never seems to work. In this position, I have yet to see a situation where this is going to work. Queen e7 is an extremely strong move. It's like he can read my mind. I was, hoping he would play a5 and I could play bishop b6, pinning his queen there. I mean, queen d7 was a serious alternative, but then e5 might be even stronger. It's a very strange ticking sound in my office here, and it's driving me crazy. I don't know what it is. It's like the chess clock, the analog chess clock that's ticking in your mind. Just not really sure what I'm doing here. Maybe I should play b3 at some point, ironically. Before he rolls me on the queen side, which is obviously his plan. One more tempo with a5, b4, and I'm like busted. That was what he was going to do. e5 doesn't seem to do anything. I mean, I'm not a computer, and maybe e5 works somehow, but I don't see what it does. It looks like he has everything under control. The bishop on b7 suddenly makes a lot of sense in this position. It was like very, very deep forethought on his part. He doesn't have to fear e5. Playing against the d5 pawn, he knows that against e5 he'll have counterplay on d5. Well, it's not an unusual idea. Oh, Levanchula, so we repeated, so it was you game. Yeah, okay. Well, that's what I wanted to know. Because it's no way that you, like, I mean, yeah, played the exact same game, but I for some reason didn't remember it was you. And I couldn't be sure. A5 anyway here. Well, that's pretty bizarre. That's the first move I've really been suspect about from the entire game that Rob Wren played. Why did he do that? He, like, kind of weakened his structure. You know, I thought he would just take on b3. Anyway, no time to commentate at this point. So we're better, but he's notoriously difficult to beat. Very, very hard to kill. I've had 2 winning positions against him, but unable to score more than, I think, a half point out of those 2 in the like 5 games we've played. I probably have a half point from the 2 games where I was winning at any point in the game. Not unlike me, I'm also very, very tough when I'm worse. I think we've got to very, very, very patiently and slowly grind him down. He lost on time. I surprised him. I moved real quickly there. He lost on time, but he's not necessarily losing in position. It looks like he can probably take this pawn. And I don't see anything special for white. I'm right about the 2-second increments. See, if it was 3-second increments, he wouldn't have lost on time. Yeah, I mean, let's see the final position. I have compensation, I would think, for the pawn, but not necessarily more. That's my guess, although it says I'm winning. It says I'm winning, the computer says I'm winning. Okay, well, I didn't see I was winning, that's for sure. I have a big position with knight c6, but I don't, you know, I'm not able to calculate that I'm winning. Alright, I agree, Rob Wren. The 2-second increment is a little bit too rough. Really not that useful. Thank you for the game. So I sped up there at the last second. He wasn't expecting me to move quickly. I'm usually the one losing on time. Constant change versus me. Okay, let's try something different. The modern defense. Well, no, I just thought the only mistake that Rob Wren made, I didn't understand, like right at the end. Well, I mean, I'm not able to say if it's the only mistake we made, but I was surprised he played a5, let me take on c4 and break up his pawns, because, okay, we were starting to get anti-pressure at that point, but it seems like he should take on b3 and just, like, you know, play a6 and keep a, like, more durable pawn structure on a6 and b5. Maybe I'm still better, but it shouldn't be that bad. Okay, constant change. When I was learning, like, the Peertz defense, this wasn't considered to be a real line, but I have seen some players playing this. But of course the move order is actually a modern, not a Peertz here technically. So I wonder if that could transpose some kind of weird Alekhine's defense, like knight f6, e5, pawn takes e5, knight takes e5. Could that transpose to the Alekhine? Not really. No. It just looks like an Alekhine. But objectively, that's probably best for black. Who's after constant change? So we have 5 challenges. Chesaturco, And then we got a weird challenge here from Nabilg. Nabilg, 3-8. You should turn it around. You're challenging me dyslexically. 8-3, not 3-8. If you could re-challenge to 8-3 instead of 3-8, it would be much appreciated. I would then accept. I can't accept a 3-8 challenge though. It's not really within our normal time control range. Stig played in the simul yesterday. IK Corwin is a kind of new regular here. Emil Skinner, who's played a lot on the stream. So, well, I mean, this position is not that much different from the knight being on c3. If I choose to play knight takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, d5. It's also knight takes e4, bishop takes f7, rook takes f7, knight takes e4. That's another variation. But on the other hand, knight d2 is kind of a quiet move, so it's not as threatening as knight c3. I could just play like this were some sort of King's Indian or Torre attack with the bishop's on c4. I do have to watch out for e5, but it doesn't look real earth-shaking here with this particular setup he's got. So I don't know. Knight takes e4. You could certainly play like typical moves like c6. I don't know though. c6, what's the plan with that move? To play d5? To play d5 straight away? Like say I play c6 and he plays bishop b3. Then what would I be doing? It's kind of like not clear what my idea is. So knight takes e4 releases a lot of tension from the position. Another possibility is to just try some kind of queenside play. But with the bishop on c4, I don't know. I mean, a6, for example, b6, e5 starts to look dangerous right away. a6. All right, let's try it. Just remind him. You'll lose your turn. No, you don't lose your turn. I just would keep you there in your place, but Nabilg. So Nabilg is next, right? Or Stig. Can somebody tell me? Nabilg is next or Stig? I think our moderator took the day off today. But it's a good thing we've got Mubat here. You'll drop down on the list, but you remind him. Yeah, I'll play him. Okay. It doesn't take long for me to forget something. I'm like 40-year-old man with Alzheimer's. It's really sad. Rook e1. Yeah, we're just going to do the standard kind of double fianchetto hippo type of thing. I don't think his setup is all that great. You know, knight on d2. He's set up like it's kind of a little like a Roy Lopez or something like that. Structurally, knight on d2, rook e1, knight f3. Can still toy around with the idea of knight takes e4 here. Knight takes e4, knight takes e4, d5. But again, it just liquidates a lot of material off the board. I don't know if that's what I really want to do. So knight d7 looks interesting. Knight d7, e5. Constant change is like the Vietnamese FIDE master I played 2 weeks ago in this tournament game. He used 15 minutes for a 2-hour time control game and got a lost position like pretty quickly. But I didn't see it, you know. But it's like, why are you playing, you know, a 2-hour time control like it's a 15-minute game? It's very strange for me. Like if you have to be somewhere, I can understand. Or if you're so brilliant that, you know, you can play like Anand or something. But if you're playing badly, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I wouldn't want him on my team, you know. Playing too fast for the time control, basically. Oh man, I don't know. E5, we could play King's Indian style, but I think you could just take the pawn. The other thing is I don't want to give him too many hints. Knight d7, e5. Knight d5 there. Looks interesting. I'm a little bit worried about this knight d7, e5 for white. No, but then on the other hand, I don't know that I like the other line all that much either. E6. E6 is possible, but looks weakening. All right. I look different today. Yeah, well, the beard is growing in. I haven't had time to shave. See, this is like, he's just making this move instantly, but it's a weak move. You should take your time and find an incisive move there, constant change. I mean, you got me in a position where maybe e5 is really critical, and you just instantly play the, like, totally innocuous move. I don't understand. So, you have to think twice when you abandon or shall I say maneuver pieces away from the center when there's tension in the center, the way there is here. I mean, this typical Roy Lopez kind of maneuver like knight f1 is fine when the center is closed, and sometimes in the case of the Roy Lopez, sometimes it's okay if e4 is protected well enough, but in this case I don't think it's really well enough protected. Maybe the position is not so bad for white, but I feel like you're letting me open it up. I guess it's not so bad, but I mean, you should at least think about it a little bit longer. Probably black is better here. He just plays too fast. I don't understand why. But I'm harping on this forever now. Okay, the c4 is hanging. So there's no time for f6. Do have queen d5. The other option was queen d3, which might have been good for black as well. This move is pretty double-edged, I would think. f4. There'd be those two in the Encyclopedia of Chess openings. There'd be like these two arrows. Be like double-edged move. Chances for both sides. f4, it's kind of dangerous. Might have been safer to play like knight e3, but he didn't even calculate it. Knight e3, queen takes e5, knight takes c4, trading the e5 pawn for the c4 pawn. Now the position remains very, very double-edged. I don't think that black stands worse here. White's development pretty meager, really. A lot of weaknesses. But I want to open up my bishop. This is kind of risky to play f6, but I think it's necessary. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he took the time to look at the alternative, knight e3. That's why he played it, because he thought it was the only move that didn't lose material. But In fact, it's not. I mean, you can play knight e3, and that's probably safer for white. Knight e3, queen takes e5, knight takes e4, queen d5, knight e3. Still, but black's slightly better there. Bishops are pretty strong. Yeah. And now, if he plays, what's he going to do? His long diagonal's kind of weak. But the two bishops, the white squared bishop unopposed here for black, guarantees me a good game. I'm not in love with the doubled pawns, but that's something. Actually, we've got this anchor at d3, and I can play. You can tell how bad I am with the mouse because I'm constantly trying to draw arrows, and they're not straight. They're like, this is an arrow, you know. Here's another arrow. Look. Yesterday I did 2 mouse slips. I dropped the queen on a square where it could be captured by a pawn, and I dropped the rook on the wrong square, allowing mate in 1. In my simul, usually I do a simul every Sunday for 20 to 25 players. I don't know what it's with me, but what is with me, but the last week I've had more mouse slips than ever for some reason. Now my bishops are just raking the board. I mean, this has got to be really good for black. Queen e4. I don't really want to let him on the 7th rank. We'll keep the diagonal. I don't know why I'm kind of freaking out here, but it's necessary evil to get rid of this pawn on e5. Yes, there are some discoveries, but I mean, I have answers to bishop takes b6. He played bishop d4, so trading my dark squared bishop. He's got 8 seconds, but I don't know. Just doesn't listen. Okay, the ticking sound is driving me absolutely bonkers now. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's not in my imagination. Okay, he won on time. Good game. Totally winning position for black. A victory to be proud of, constant change. Where's this ticking sound coming from? Okay. Driving me absolutely berserk. White played badly but won on time. I was just getting distracted by the ticking sound. Alright. He had a few threats there, but I just couldn't move the mouse fast enough on that last move. H5 was what I meant to play, but I just didn't feel like lifting the mouse fast enough. Lou Barlow. Chesaturco, you lost your turn. My bad. Yeah, okay. You'll be up next. Nabil's supposed to be next, actually. I forgot to challenge him. So Nabil and Chesaturco. Sorry, I got a little distracted. Bronx's defense says, in the late 90s, people would call Loveline with a low battery beep on a smoke detector going. But it's like I work in this office every day, and there's this strange sound that I never hear. You know what I mean? Like, and that's really weird. You know, there's nothing new in my office to make this sound. It's not a beep, it's like a vibration sound. It's a vibrate, it's like some kind of like something vibrating. But you know when something gets on your nerves and you just can't let it go. Now I'm just like obsessed with it. Stieg83 with a very strange move order. I have seen this once or twice. I'll try to focus on the game, guys. It's just like, it's like Sigmund Freud when he got the birds chirping or whatever. You can't get rid of it, man. trying to tune it out. Rats in the Walls. No, it's not a Lovecraft story. It's a real noise, man. I think I've figured out what it is. Alright, that was entertaining, I know. So I was all the time, I was like looking up and looking out like behind me, and it was something under the desk, which I didn't expect. But finally we figured out what it was. I have a room cleaning robot, you know, one of these like Roomba robots, and it was very strange, like it was making a vibrating sound. I had used it this morning and put it back to charge, but while it was sitting there charging, it was making some kind of weird vibrating sound that I don't even understand to this moment. But that's it. So Stig83, basically this is like a Tartakover Queen's Gambit. I mean, I wonder, I don't know, you know, why should there necessarily be anything dramatically wrong with this for black? To just play b6. Actually, I'm sure if we look in the chess encyclopedia we'll find something, but at the end of the day, you're just playing the Tartakover, right, with an early b6 without h6. I'm sure that we'll find some games from, you know, master games where this has been played before. I'm just going to play according to my usual plan. Do you like Smyslav Bogo? A few days ago we played. What do you think about it? Yeah, that's a very solid line. Actually, I was happy because I played it, you know, according to the engine, I played that pretty well. Danny Kopech played that against me, Rabren. He's an American IM who died last year. Now I know that I'm supposed to play like Queen D3 and not trade queens or something, but that's another variation. Yeah, that seems like a very solid line for black, Rabren. I think that I also play the Bogo. I don't play that line myself, but yeah, I would agree. I mean, it seems like quite a good line. Definitely hard for white to get an edge. But I think the way I played it in the game was one of the better ways. So it looks like that was fairly critical what we did there. But I do play the Bogos, so I should consider playing that myself sometimes. Kind of mix it up. Looks like a very, very solid. Yeah, it was the robot. I don't know what it was doing. It was like like, but just a very, very faint vibration, enough to like make somebody crazy. I'm not going to say that's why I lost the constant change on time, but it didn't help to have this distraction of this bizarre sound. While I was trying to make these moves with 3 minutes to 0, 3 second. Anyway, the mystery has been solved. It was the robot vacuum making a strange vibrating sound. So, well, there are a lot of white square weaknesses. How much I can really profit from it, that's the question. Notice the knight on b8. I mean, the normal Tartikover, he would have had h6 already. Although it's a slight weakening, it's oftentimes a very useful move. Like, black doesn't get back rank mated at some key point, like 15 moves or 20 moves from now. It's generally considered to be a useful inclusion to get the free h6. So that's one thing. The other thing he did, I mean, you're not really supposed to take with the bishop on d5, Stig. That's a no-no in these kind of positions. So I guess it's just like too many white square weaknesses. White should be seriously better here. Is queen a4 the right idea, though? Good question. Maybe I'm just on the right track or not. Queen a4. Take there. Actually, he might. We have to do something. I'm down to 37 seconds again. You guys just don't like to think as much as me. High Tech Caveman asks, am I close to GM? The answer is unequivocally no. I'm pretty far from GM. I was pretty close to GM rating at one point, about 15 years ago. But we had some life complications and some stupid decisions make me not realize the 2500 rating, which was required. But no, I'm not close to GM. I think it's still attainable. Wow, c5, good move. c5 is a good move here. I'm just going to lose on time. He has no development, though, with the queen side going on. Rook c8. c1, I mean. I don't know if this is right, but we got to act quickly. He's Stig 83. He's 1500, man. He's blitzing me. 5-5. Do you go to any local chess clubs nowadays? Okay, good question. Well, if I was living in the United States, I mean, I would. You know, the chess club, what shall we call it? The chess club culture is a little different in Europe than it is in the United States. Hungary, I mean, I'm kind of an outsider here, you know, even after living here for 12 years. Hungarians aren't that inclusive as some other cultures. I still feel like an outsider, even though I have a lot of friends. So I don't, you know, but there's not really this chess club, the way like you think of it like a chess club like the Marshall Chess Club or this independent chess clubs, you know what I mean? There's like clubs like the, I don't know, football club or the Hungarian army has a club and stuff like that, but chess clubs in Europe and the United States, they're very kind of different. So this idea of going to the chess club in Europe, it's not quite the same as in the United States. You like play for a team or a club, but it's like usually sponsored by some organization, whether it's the army or the, I don't know, gymnastics club or something like that. But this private chess clubs don't really exist the way that we think about it in like a major metropolitan city like in the United States or something. I kind of miss that, you know, I really do. Alright, so now what? You're going to run me over on the clock. Stig has a solid position here. It may be enough to hold on. 185 though. I'm not interested really in trading. He's pretty good for 1500, I have to say. I don't remember the simul game. Well, he was fast in that game too. We're playing fast here. He's playing bullet, 1200. White has a small edge. You know, with two grandmasters playing, I think there'd be a good chance this would be a draw, barring the last move. So he played too quickly and blundered. But again, it's the same song, you know, guys, don't play so fast. I mean, these are fairly slow blitz games. Take your time, especially with increment. You really have to take your time. Looks like you're close to 2,500 now. No, I got another 100 some points to go. I was much higher. I really didn't appreciate it when I had it, you know. I mean, I was like, oh yeah, whatever, you know, I'll get to 2,500. And then life kicks you in the ass, and you're like, maybe I should have taken advantage of that when I had the chance. It's not so easy to get to 2,500 FIDE. I was like 2,480 unofficially, probably 2,475, 2,480. I don't know exactly, but approximately. If I had just protected my rating a little, I would have had that requirement out of the way. But the hardest thing for me, I mean, I'm a very stable style player, and making GM norms is like, you have to have nearly like a 2,600 performance, which means that you have to make GM norms. The 2,500 rating I could do probably if my life depended on it, but the norms are hard. You know, you really have to have like performances where you exceed expectations by a great deal. That's not easy for me because I don't play a wildly aggressive, uncompromising style. I'm very stable and play kind of conservatively. So I'm not overly conservatively, but I'm not a maniac, you know, and I don't go out of my way to take risks. There is one very strong Hungarian grandmaster, Viktor Erdos, who's now like 2650, but he had a really hard time making the GM title because he would typically play a GM norm tournament and have something like, you know, 6 draws and 3 wins. I mean, that would be like kind of a typical result for him. And a good tournament for me would be kind of similar. You know, I don't really like to lose, and so I'll consequently have a lot of draws, too many draws. So I need to cut down on the draws and play more like you know, for all out to win or lose. So I have to change my style to be a little bit more like risk taking, probably, if I want to make GM norms. Although if I could play in super strong opens are probably the best bet. It's just hard to find those kind of tournaments. Okay, so Nabilg is next, then Chesaturco. How did we lose Chesaturco? How did he get moved down? I guess he just got disconnected. Move king f1. Why not h3? Are you trying to centralize your king? Of course I'm trying to centralize my king, man. It's the end game. Nabil, this is a new opponent for me. No, I need to gain a lot of rating points, but my goal is to do it slowly. You know, if I can get to 24 every few months, gain 20-25 rating points. I didn't play almost anything between 2010 and 2015. Just the Hungarian Team Championship, but I wasn't that serious about it in past years, the past 5 or 6 years. I wasn't really... I cared, but not like all that much, you know, to be honest. And now I feel like doing the stream and working on teaching chess full-time, doing chess full-time has increased my motivation level to the point where I'm really serious about getting good again, and that's where we're at right now. So yesterday I was really angry with myself for accepting a quick draw with white against a lower rated player, but it was a team competition, and my team is really close to getting relegated. So this kid is pretty good, and he's pretty aggressive, and I lost to him once before, so I just didn't want to risk it. And our team will probably just scrape by into just barely escaping relegation. So I didn't want to risk like losing a game when we couldn't really afford it, when the draw is probably enough. But in general, I have too many draws, and I want to try to cut down on that statistics. So that's going to be one of the things going forward that I'm going to be concentrating on. Now, this is a typical idea, Nabil here, trying to break up my pawn structure. Ironically, I had the same structure yesterday against said young player. I was white in English Neo Grunfeld, where he captured on c3, and I had the same structure, though he had the Marazzi kind of thing going on with c4, c5 threats. But black wants to keep the pawn structure, compact here. I don't want to allow any tricks of like e5 breaking up my pawn structure. That's the main concept. So knight d7 is probably main move. You can also play like queen c7 here, but I think this is probably the simplest approach. Yeah, good luck. Thank you for the good luck. I'm going to need all I can get. And I think, I'm not in a rush, but I think, to attain GM, if I could do it in like 3 years, would be like a reasonable sort of time frame. If I give myself 3 years to really improve and get back to the best I can play, I think it's possible. I'm not saying it's likely I can do it, but I think it's possible I could do it. Of course, it would be good to have like unlimited resources, so you could play in like every tournament. Then I would be sure I could do it. But I'm certain I could make GM if I had, a millionaire sponsor or something. So if you know any millionaire sponsors, let me know. Rook b1. Good. Now, Nabil plays very logically. I think that I've never been a fan of White's kind of position, but there's certain stability in White's position. He's not really doing anything, but he's not doing anything well. Penguin IM, it's interesting. He got the IM title. I don't agree with this. This system. He got the IM title by winning some kind of junior tournament. Now, in his case, it's okay because he's clearly strong enough to be an IM. But I'm not happy with this concept that players like Penguin IM are getting awarded titles because they won one junior tournament, where like people like he didn't. I don't think there was anybody in the field rated over like 2,300. FIDE has gotten more and more out of control with just like handing out titles like candy. In his case, it's okay because he is legitimately IM strength, but I don't like the direction that FIDE has taken with handing out titles for everything. There's no way somebody should get an IM title for winning a junior tournament where like there's nobody in the field who's over 2,300. And he wasn't the only one. That's really bogus. IM and FM titles are just getting handed out like candy, and even the GM titles are easier than they used to be. So, but to give him credit, he's a good player. It wasn't a mistake for FIDE to give him the IM title, but in the case of some other players, it probably has been. A3, because anybody could get lucky in one tournament. I mean, you could be like a 2,200 who had the tournament of his life. And I don't really think... I know that there's like regional tournaments, where people in like third world countries get the IM title, but that's... that's a little more understandable because those people don't really have access to other tournaments. Anyway, I'm getting off subject. Penguin IM seems like quite a strong blitz player. He's around 2450 FIDE. from, I think, what I saw. This is an annoying game where white doesn't do anything, just sets up the pieces and... alright. Yeah, rook b8 is good. Thank you for the game. Are viewers allowed to challenge multiple times? Stig. Only if there was like no other challenges. Generally not. Usually, like, we've got a lot of challengers. Today's not out of control, but the stream isn't that long. I mean, just 2.5 hours. I'm basically only playing like 10 or 11 games max. So they're fairly long games, so they don't seem like it. So I can't really play multiple games in most cases. Sometimes someone squeaks in one at the end or something like a blitz game, but for the most part, no. So Nabil, don't know much about this player. Sounds kind of like a Russian name or something, but I could be completely off base. I'm just guessing. Nabil. He doesn't move too many pawns. He's aware of pawn weaknesses. Yawn. Get a lot of these positions lately. I mean, maybe we'll have to take his bishop at some point and try to do something with the bishop pair. I don't really have a better idea here, honestly. This piece is a problem. I mean, I don't know how many times I've said it in videos and stuff here. But just again and again and again, it's just a constant problem. It's never like doing anything in these type of structures. Also in the Rossolimo, it's similar to Rossolimo. Bishop b5, bishop takes c6 kind of positions. Now this was a mistake by Nabil. Very, very serious mistake. Bishop takes e5. You don't want to do that. That's okay to give up the white squared bishop, you know, I think in general, but because your pawn structure is based on white squares, you need the dark squared bishop more. The dark squared bishop is your quote-unquote good bishop. I mean, that's a bad exchange. Now you have weaknesses on the dark squares, and it's not that easy for me to like win this game, but objectively, now I can torture you for a long time, you know, very slowly, trying to increase my control on the dark squares. I would think would be the natural plan, because you can't control dark squares very well here. I mean, maybe still white is hard to break down in this position. I can understand, but objectively, just seems like you've got a kind of bad bishop, and the dark squares are pretty weak and hard to cover. So the unnecessary exchange on e5 really, it's hard to do nothing, and that's what white's strategy was in this kind of position. But he can move his king back and forth. Not sure what I would do objectively, you know, if that happens. Now he's starting to cover the dark squares, like I said. Solid player. But if we're patient here, setting up maybe f5 later on, not necessarily now, but at some point, maybe we'll think about f5. Suggest any book for beginners? This is a tough one. I get this question a lot. You know, I'm a classical kind of guy. I like, not my style, but my chess learning was kind of classic books. If you want something modern, I think the Silman stuff is okay. Jeremy Silman's books, The Amateur's Mind, and whatever. If you want something kind of modern, you know. But if you want the classics, I like old school books like Chernev and Horowitz. Just the other day on Chess Base, there was one Indian GM who was recommending, you know, the most instructive chess games ever played. That's one of my favorite books of all time, by Chernev. So you can do a lot worse than these like kind of classical old school books. Although if you do get the old school books, like the most instructive games of chess ever played, I don't know if you can get them in algebraic notation. Like that book might be in descriptive notation. I'm not sure if it's been reprinted in algebraic or not. Other great books, My System by Nimzovich. I learned Nimzovich by another book called Hypermodern Chess, The Games of Aaron Nimzovich. Highly recommend it. Of course, what am I doing here objectively? We also recommend Art of Positional Play by Sammy Reshevsky. There's another very good book. But these are really like not beginner books. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself because the books that I'm talking about kind of assume that you understand the very basics. I guess if you're talking beginner, I don't know. I'm kind of assuming when people ask me that they're kind of like intermediate beginners, not like absolute beginners. I don't think, that's that important if you're like an absolute beginner. There's a lot of resources to learn, the way to move the pieces and the simplest rules of the game. Queen c2. Nabil plays a very strange style of play. I think he plays a strange style of game. Ultra like defensive, not trying to do anything. And he's 2000, so I think, and he's got bullet, right? Yeah. He likes to play bullet chess. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to like join him in essentially doing nothing for a while here. While I try to find a plan. This though was quite the committal move by Nabil. He's getting kind of a little bit ambitious, and I think c4 is a mistake. Maybe I should have jumped on the opportunity to play rook a3 right away there. He's weakening the dark squares again. c5 I did not expect. Alright. Things are going to get a little bit unclear before they get clear. But he did fix my structure. I mean, fix it like stop it from moving, not like correct it. But c5 is a good move. I didn't foresee that. He killed my bishop on c8. Now he's letting it out again. It's getting pretty random. He's got a 2-minute time advantage. Clearly a fast player. He's good at doing nothing. And now I think the position is probably equal, but kind of imbalanced. I did not play this as well as can be done. But it's a player who's playing very, very fast. Naroditsky recommended in a stream Learn from the Legends by Mikhail Marin. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's probably a million books. Marin is a good player. He's written some books. I mean, I'm sure that if Naroditsky recommended it, it's a good book. I don't think that he would recommend it if it wasn't. He knows chess pretty well. Quite a strong player. But I doubt that Naroditsky knows, a lot of older classic books, given his age. He's really learned chess in the computer generation. So here we stand a little bit better, I think, with the two bishops, but it's probably not enough. Not enough here, looks like. It looks like he's going to get away. I'm trying to put pressure on e4. I mean, I'm sure anything that Daniel Naroditsky recommended is okay, but at the same time, while he's a strong player, I doubt he's really knowledgeable about older stuff. Chess Fundamentals if you're beginner. It sounds familiar. It's a pretty general title. Chess Fundamentals. Is that Jose Capablanca? Or there wasn't a Capablanca book. There was a Capablanca book that was kind of for beginners. Nabilk is really expert at like doing nothing, but doing it well. There was this, I remember there was this Russian candidate master in Boston, and he was like the master of doing nothing. He was around 2300. I mean, he would like move his king back and forth all the time. I never saw anyone who was so professional like moving his king back and forth. This is a very strong move under the circumstances, I think. Trading off my bishop. Nabil definitely way above average in terms of understanding like defense. Most people don't have a concept about playing defensively. And it seems like Nabil is in a very small minority that he understands thinking defensively. Trading off the white squared bishop there is a strong idea. Black stands a little bit better, but I have no time. Maybe impossible for me to break through here. I didn't really want to trade queens, but I don't really see how I can avoid it. Now he could have some problems. Or not. Yawn. Yeah, this almost hallucinated. We saw this, then we forgot about it, and then we saw it again. You were unlucky that I didn't forget permanently about that tactic, Nabil. But really, I don't like your style in a way because it's a little bit passive, but I think that it's very interesting that a player could understand like kind of defensive play at your level. I mean, I think that you need to be more aggressive, but on the other hand, I really appreciate that you have a lot of defensive skills, which most people don't have at your level, Nabil. So I think work on being a little more aggressive off, out of the gate, and then revert to defensive play if necessary. But at the same time, I mean it as a compliment. Like you defend very, very well, which most people don't understand. I think it's one of the biggest weaknesses I see of chess players under master level, and even some of them above master level. I'm kind of an expert in defense, and I think it's an underrated skill. As far as I know, Naroditsky's fluent in Russian. He follows a lot of Russian books. Okay, this is something I don't know Naroditsky. I mean, he was like a little miniature child when I left the United States in 2004, even like when I was there in 2007, 2008, like playing some tournaments. So he is completely like new for me. I mean, I know that he's 2600 now, but he was just a little miniature kid, and I thought that he studied with I thought for some reason he was studying with Michael Eigner, if I'm not mistaken, who's certainly not speaking Russian. But okay, I guess Naroditsky came to the United States when he was like a kid, and he was fluent in Russian, very fluent in Russian. I mean, he may have been Russian born, but he certainly lived the majority of his life now in the U.S. But I guess he had a very fundamental training before he came to the U.S. as a little kid. Best defender, Karyakin. I mean, Karyakin is, well, this is almost my game from yesterday, except my opponent played g6, Chesaturko. I mean, knight c6 is interesting, but I don't think that's really the best. Now I'm incited into playing d4. The Nepomniachtchi is, he's like Morozevich Jr. He's Morozevich school. Well, these guys understand defense, Karyakin and Nepomniachtchi understand everything. I wouldn't call Karyakin defensive though. He's pretty aggressive, and like, he plays sharp lines. Not always, but in many cases. Maybe less a little bit against Magnus Carlsen than you would against like the average grandmaster. But there's many different styles of chess players. I'm just saying players under master level, one of the biggest weaknesses tends to be lack of defensive skills. But as far as recommending, we were originally starting all this talk about recommending books for beginners. I mean, it depends on what level we're talking about. But I'm more focused on, lower intermediate upward. Although I occasionally do teach players who are just starting out. I don't discriminate, I teach all levels. But I think my personal experience is teaching a lot of intermediate. Most of the people I've taught have been kind of intermediate level. I occasionally work with masters. I occasionally work with total beginners, but most of them span the gamut between something like 1500 and 2100, 2200. So Chesaturko playing is kind of like a Simagin variation of the Grunfeld, except that his bishop is on e7. We'll call it like the Simagin semi-Tarrasch. We got the semi-Tarrasch with b6 instead of c5. It looks a little risky. We could play d5 here. d5, take, queen takes, bishop takes h7, of course. Although d5, he just takes and plays knight a5. If you guys know what I'm talking about, the Simagin variation of the Grunfeld, it's like where you play the Grunfeld, but you put the knight on c6 in front of the pawn on c7. Or you play like b6 and bishop b7 and knight c6 and knight a5, instead of playing c5 directly. So Chesaturko here kind of doing the same thing, like it was Simagin Grunfeld. Rob Rance, thanks for the game, man. I'm sorry that we can't play more than one game on the stream, but we'll definitely catch up with some training games in the afternoons. It's really good to have a strong player. Rob Rance is an international master from Serbia, and he's been hanging out on my stream here quite a bit, and really it's fun and nice to play some strong players. Occasionally we'll play IM Spinal Tap from the US, but his time, is so late at night that it's hard for him to get on and play me. And usually when he gets on, he's like really dog tired, probably like 4 a.m. or something when I'm doing my weekday stream here. Guys, don't forget about my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. And we do upload the streams over there, also do some independent videos, wealth of different topics, openings, reviews of games here from the stream, from my simul stream, Grandmaster games, analysis of major clashes of some strong players. Chesaturko says, I don't know what I'm doing, man. Well, you have to play the structure. I mean, your queen is a little bit problematic here. Your position is a cross between the... It's a cross between the, I don't know, semi-Tarrasch and the Chigorin. The knight on c6 is awkward, and you're having trouble controlling the center. But your queen is going to be awkward there too. I don't know if it's queen c8, queen d7. Okay, rook e8 is an interesting move, like trying to dissuade me from playing d5. This is a purely defensive idea. No offense really with that move. We're just talking about, you know, the lack of people's kind of appreciation for defense in chess or skill. It's a hard thing to develop a defensive ability. You have to have a strong sense of danger and a lot of practice playing inferior positions like me. Since I'm not really an opening specialist, I've always had a tendency to get myself in trouble. And I think, as I mentioned before many streams, I mean, a lot of players have been taught not to learn the openings at an early stage. I always spout out the list, you know, these, especially Russian players who are classically trained by their trainers, like Karpov, Dreyev, Kamsky, trained not to learn openings. And some of them, like Kamsky, never really learned openings. Kamsky, like me, you know, is really not opening centric at all. Whereas like Dreyev and Karpov was, you know, Karpov also not really an opening specialist, though he learned a lot of openings. He was never specialist in the opening. But what all these guys have in common is their ability to play fantastic, you know, defense and practical chess. Kamsky in particular. Rook e8 and practical, and being practical. Rook e8 here. So what do I do now? That's the problem. Rook e8 was a good move defensively. It still doesn't solve all your problems, but it's a good start. Guys, we're going to be streaming for another 45 minutes. e5 looks good. Yeah, I mean, e5, it's just that it's very committal. And it's very, very telegraphing what I'm trying to do. I mean, everybody and their brother understands what I'm doing when I play e5. But there's no going back. I mean, every time you make a pawn move, you can't take it back. So I'm committed to that structure. My structure becomes a little bit inflexible. If I play like e5, he plays knight a5. I'm not going to be able to play queen ae4 there. So I'm hoping to be maybe combining a couple of different ideas. e5 is one of them. I'm not really sure where my pieces belong. I do have a kind of crazy idea here. I'm thinking rook b1. Like a rook b5 transfer to the king side. And rook b1 is not a bad move if you're down to 2 minutes and 42 seconds and you need to do something useful. I want to make useful moves. But I doubt that. I doubt a computer would choose rook b1. It does increase the mobility of my rook, but something more concrete might have been possible. Bishop f4. Just developing a piece. Plays bishop f8. Now things are a little different. Now we've got some different ideas. He's trying to defend with like bishop f8, g6. We can play knight g5, which we didn't have this possibility before. And h4 is a new idea. Wasn't popular. Possible and popular. I did that the other day. We did make the same mistake the other day with possible and popular. He's gonna play like g6 almost certainly. I'm not convinced about rook b5. maybe e5. The aforementioned idea, I don't know, now that I have knight g5, somehow this appeals to me more. This was suggested the previous move, but in that case of the bishop on e7, I never had knight to g5 ideas. So, as well as opening up this, now I play rook b1. The rook b1 looks quite silly here. This feels like a completely wasted tempo. Although in some variations it might discourage c5 because I can take and the bishop will be hanging to the rook on b1. But in general, I think bishop takes h7, king takes h7, knight check, king g6, queen g4, f5, pawn takes f6, king takes f6. Bishop takes, king takes, knight check, king up, queen h5, bishop takes, king takes, knight g5 check, knight king g6, queen g4. I mean, this should be good. Also got rook d3. This is called what, the Morphy sacrifice? What is the name of the bishop takes h7 idea? The sacrifice? That was a really good book for beginners on basic tactical patterns. The Art of the Checkmate. That's a very good move. Actually, I should remember to suggest that if you guys are looking for a beginner's book about basic attacking concepts and patterns, The Art of the Checkmate was a very, very good book. He's got 3 minutes to think about it. The Greek Gift. No, it has a name. What is this? I should read that book again. Tons of good examples in Art of the Checkmate. I think it was written by some French players, if I'm not mistaken. It's an old book. But speaking of good books for beginners, that should be on the top of the list. A book that's not that often referred to. Not a lot of people know that book. These Dover books, these classic cheap paperback Dover books, I mean, half of the best chess books in history are published by them. And they're very affordable. Of course, they're not really that durable, but you get what you pay for with a paperback chess book. Yeah, this book, The Art of the Checkmate by Georges Renaud. So this is, I don't know who the guy was. It was a French chess player, I guess. But anyway, the book is excellent. I'm not sure if there were 2 authors or 1. But I know that's correct. That's one of them. An excellent book for learning attacking patterns and mating patterns. Classic combinational patterns. Very, very good. Chessaturco, you've got a couple defensive tries, I guess. F5, Queen D5. Queen D5 is another try. I shouldn't be giving him moves. Oh, he took my advice. So I thought here just F3. You know, like, we don't have to do anything fancy. I just don't want him to get any, you know, sort of exchanges on g2, sacrifice a piece back. Now we'll let him stew a bit. We should have tremendous compensation. And we still have mating threats. Not really certain f3 was necessarily the best move. Man, we should have some awfully strong attacking chances here, though. I think queen d5 was hands down best. f5 didn't look that appealing. I just take on f6 and he's probably close to toast anyway after f5 or f6. But this move, queen d5, maybe it's not so clear. Yeah, queen c2 was also possible. But yeah, I mean, he sticks a knight on f5 and sacrifices a piece back. I mean, that's pretty typical. That happens sometimes in the French. I didn't mean now, just Turco. But perhaps this is a good move as well. Knight h6 maybe. Attacking my queen. Time out. Let's check the analysis board here. I don't like to spend a lot of time, you know, because we don't have that much time to work with anyway. Yeah, I'm winning here. But I don't know about the last move. Apparently I missed a stronger move with queen h3 there. I definitely didn't see queen h3. I didn't understand how I made him after knight h6. What am I missing here? I guess it's like g4 and mate anyway. Okay. So you should have played f6 now. f3 was my best move. Pretty much best play. I mean, I maybe missed something here. Oh, wow, d5 or c4. That's bizarre. So the computer has some really cool moves. The slow moves, like c4. Just controlling the d5 square. I have a lot of stuff. God of Snooker is challenging. He's got no rated games. Vasila Kos. Did I lose somebody? Because I feel like we lost the challenger here. I don't know, it seems like the list just suddenly got shorter. It seemed like we had 4 challenges, and now it's like 2. A God of Snooker, I just gotta require everybody to have an established account before I play them. Like, something like 40 games. Kino is the same thing, no games. Because I get trolled by a lot of people, like using computers and stuff. So I have to ask everybody have an account that's played a bunch of games before I'm gonna play them here on my stream. Apparently, like, I had a lot of different ideas there. Vasila Kos. Guys, I have time for this game and probably one more. But those guys are playing with unestablished accounts, so I'd really like to play somebody who has some established games instead. Nothing personal, but queen d3 instead of going queen g4 is actually +5. Yeah, it's not good. But I was surprised by Black's play. I mean, after I played e5, you know, he can continue, I thought, with something more natural like g6. Knight e7 is just not good. I mean, you're very awkward there. You have the knight and bishop blocking each other on f8 and e7. That's not something you want to do. I know the knight was a problem, but it really probably should just go to a5 and get out of the way. Maybe I have a strong attack, But at least with knight a5, your pieces don't interfere with each other. I think you can probably withstand my attack. The other question is, like, was bishop f8 really necessary or not? And still, I think the black might be okay. But it's not a good position. I mean, it's just not a good position. You've got very little control of the center, with the knight on c6 getting in the way of the c-pawn. The best answer is not to get into that kind of situation, Chesaturco, not to play this opening where you don't have enough control of the center with your knight blocking the c-pawn. You know, if you're white, or if you're playing very accurately, this is what I talked about before, that like too much information can be a bad thing. Difficult, tricky openings like the Chigorin defense, you know, I wouldn't recommend a beginner play the Chigorin defense. I mean, you're playing knight c6, it's an opening like where if you make one mistake, you're just toast. I mean, for beginners, like, you should play a solid opening, something that's like durable and fundamental, like the Queen's Gambit Declined, or even the Nimzo Indian. Something where you got, you know, a little bit of rope to make a mistake, because if you play some openings like this where your knight's on c6 and you have to play perfectly, or you make one mistake and you lose, like the Chigorin, you know, stuff that's pushing the envelope as far as like being like too extreme in terms of hypermodernism or whatever, that should be safe for advanced players, I think, or at least intermediate level players. Now, knight to c6 from Vasilakos. Okay, this is not usually played here. I mean, my assumption would be that I can take this pawn, but take the pawn doesn't look that convincing. And d5 just transposes. We're going to have to look this up after the game. I mean, my assumption was that you're supposed to take here. Maybe this is good for me. How, though? Can I take it? I can't really hold on to it if I take it. I mean, takes, queen a5, bishop e3, knight g4. You could try to hold on to the pawn there. Doesn't look really right. Takes, queen a5, castles, queen takes c5. Looks perfectly okay for black, actually. And then I don't have time for something like d5, knight a5, d6, just dropping my pawn on c4. I mean, this may be a good move. I don't know. I don't ever see this. I just always assume there's something wrong with knight to c6, but you learn something new every day. I mean, maybe this is a quite playable concept. D takes c5, queen a5. It just doesn't look like. You could play it as some kind of pawn sacrifice, castles, queen takes c5, and try to just outstrip black in development. But I don't really feel like this is too convincing. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, maybe there's just nothing wrong with this for black. I just have to transpose. I don't see anything, you know, special for white. You can play d5 as well. I mean, d5, but you're going to have to protect your pawn on c4 with knight d2 or something like that. We'll look it up after the game. Okay, but this gives him the option to transpose. You know, I feel like I'm much more knowledgeable in this line than in the Panov or whatever. What are these lines called with c5 and knight c6 in the King's Indian? Pano. It has another name. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it. I want to play with you not 1846. What does that mean? What? Yeah, well, you wouldn't play with the 1846. You would play with me, obviously. So we have another challenge. God of Snooker. As I said, these guys, no rated games. Abi to Buye. Bulle. Bulle. I don't know how to pronounce it in French. The time limit is too long. 8-5. The 5-second increment is too much. So 8-3. If you could please change your challenge to 8-3 before this game is over, I would accept that as the last game. If Abite doesn't change it, then we'll play Mastermind, which is a new account as well. 8-3 though. So 8-3 is the longest time control I'll play. You're welcome, Chess Turco. Just don't tangle up your pieces. Well, this is probably the main line of the whole English symmetrical variation, Vasilikos. So you should know what you're doing here. D6 is a speculative pawn sacrifice. Knight G4 is an aggressive line. But the main line is knight takes D4. And this is very bad. So it's not like the Sveshnikov or something. It's an English opening, and I've got massive control of D5 bearing down here. So when you go E5, it's not a Sicilian. It's not a true Sicilian. You have problems because I have even more control of the D6, D6 and D5 squares. This is very, very bad for black. There's two problems. I mean, the first one is this square, which is, if you study this book I was talking about earlier, the most instructive chess games ever played, there's at least one or two examples in there of how important D5 is. But in Sicilian type of positions, also in the Roy Lopez. But D6 is just as bad, because with D6 he's like paralyzed. He can't move his pawn. I've got a blockade of D6. So it's not one but two squares, two vital squares that are like weakened by the move E5. So this is just a positional catastrophe for black. There are some openings where you can do this, but this is not one of them. So guys, last two games for today. 98, I feel like we had a game like this the other day on the stream. Something very similar. Now I have to think about this because it's a good reaction. He wants to get rid of that. That is probably black's best move, hands down. And I want to maintain my control of the center, but I also want to maintain my development in this position. So I'm not 100% sure what my best reaction is here. Maintain control of the position, but at the same time maintain good development. I mean, it's very tempting to take his bishop on c8 because in the long run, my white square control is good. He doesn't have a white square bishop there. Not 100% certain. Love to develop my pieces, but I don't really know how. I mean, bishop e3 just doesn't really look convincing. Knight takes c8, develops his pieces for him, but at the same time leaves me with a long run. In the long run, it leaves me with a powerful bishop, unopposed bishop. This is a situation where maybe I have to be quite accurate. This long diagonal. If I play the tempting move b3, he could play e4. If I waste time, maybe just something simple like bishop d2. Bishop d2 kind of interferes with my queen. I don't know, I have doubts about this, the way I played this. I mean, white's got to be better here, but I don't feel sure that like knight takes c8 was my best move. Although I don't have that many alternatives. I mean, c5 maybe? Just like maintaining the bind. I really have some doubts about this being, correctly played. Rook b1 seems like a waste of time. It's not really a great square for my rook. I'm just defensively, getting off of this bishop on the long diagonal. I live in... What? Alright. For those of you that don't know, I live in Budapest, Hungary. I've been here since 2004. Occasionally leave the country. Been living basically in Hungary for most of the year since 2004. I do go back to the United States sometimes. I may stream in some periods from there. Last year I was streaming from the US for 2 months. It might happen again, though my schedule isn't fixed. And again, I want to thank everybody who supported the stream via PayPal. We have a PayPal account, and we do accept donations to support the stream and also support my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. Very aggressive play by Vasilikos. He's just about found a way to cast doubt on my position, but it's going to get messier before it gets clear. So my idea here is to play bishop a3. Now both bishops quite powerful, threatening to win the exchange. We've still got good control of d5. And now for our next trick, this is the key moment. Well, we could just play knight e4, I guess. We could also sack a piece for some kind of massive armada of pawns. That's tempting in itself. Takes on b5, takes on c3, takes on a6. It's very possible that's good for me. And that looks extremely nasty for black, but there may be something simpler. Not really seeing it though. There is something simpler. I have yet to locate it. I don't feel like sacrificing a piece here. 94 takes. I was thinking about c5. Okay, that was it. That was another idea. This is my first idea. Maybe the safest one. Just down to 30 seconds. I mean, it was possible to sacrifice a piece there. Maybe just knight takes b5, actually. Come to think of it, the simple approach. This may be good. 3 passed pawns. Very powerful passed pawns. I just don't have time to calculate deep enough. I have certainty that, in general, I have enough compensation with some sort of piece sacrifice there, but we'll play it safe. Still, it's not that clear what's going on here. Guys, we're going to play one more game after this. Nabil is from Jordan. Sorry, Nabil. I was just trying to imagine how the name would be pronounced. Russian is closer to me because I did study some Russian. I had a friend from Jordan. I haven't seen in 15 years. He was a chess player, an amateur chess player, like yourself, in Boston. Really funny guy. He was about 1700, 1800. Bishop to b4. So we managed to keep our position while not taking any risks and maintaining some kind of positional advantage here. Now we're just winning. Just winning. Famous last words. There's no such thing as just winning. Maybe I should have inserted like a check on d5. I don't know. Oh, alright. He got in time pressure. Alright. Last game for today will be Abite Boule did change his challenge, so we'll play him last. Sorry, Mastermind, you were just on the bubble. Abite Boule did change the challenge as I had asked him, so thank you for doing that. Why did you move for Hungary? Why did you move to Hungary? We were looking to live in Europe, to play chess full time. Chess in the United States is there's not as much. It's more expensive to travel in the U.S. and the cost of living is higher in the U.S. as opposed to like Central Europe. Secondly, I've been to Hungary many times in the past, and had a kind of connection here since the mid to late 90s. So it was just a place that I know, and there's a very, very long history of chess tournaments here and chess in general. Hungary has a very, very strong chess culture, though it's kind of dying, I hate to say. It seems like it's dying, but traditionally Hungary had a very, very strong chess culture. Seems like it's on the decline, especially with Rapport playing board 1 for the Olympic team. Kind of a bad joke at Rapport's expense, but what can I do? Nabil says he's 1911 in blitz at chess.com. I don't really play on chess.com, but that sounds like solid amateur. You reminded me I have to get back in touch with that friend of mine from Jordan. Kareem was his name. Alright, so c4. We're going to transpose to basically a kind of Catalan where black played knight to c6 here. And this is some kind of variation, I think. This isn't total garbage for black. But generally speaking, most players don't put the knight on c6. Mostly, they'll play without knight c6. But he's committed to this move on move 2. So, excuse me. I don't really like e6. We see this a lot on the stream, but I think that black should try. I think that black should try to get the bishop outside the pawn chain. So, I remember years ago I had a game with Josh Friedel, who's now a GM. Josh liked to play the Chigorin, and he played, I believe he played bishop g4. Maybe it was a different line, though. Anyway, in any case, bishop g4, I think you need to get the guy outside the pawn chain there. Now, h6 looks like a slow move for black, too. It's a fairly close position, so you can afford it in moves like h6, but why? To stop bishop g5? And does black really have the luxury, the time, to play moves like h6? If white is playing optimally here, it seems like white should get an advantage. Okay, it's not the worst. It's not the worst move in the world. H6. Admittedly, stopping bishop g5 might be a useful thing, but on the other hand, do I really want to put my bishop on g5? I mean, it's no pin. Excuse me, I'm terrible with these arrows and my mouse is retarded. Bishop on c1. Do I really want to play that? I mean, you've got the bishop on e7, so I don't think h6 is necessary. I mean, if you have bishop on f5 and you want retreat squares for that bishop to go back to h7, then it's valid to play h6. But I think otherwise, this is a luxury that black, doesn't necessarily afford here. No, I have a lot of friends. I mean, I'm from Boston. I mean, it's a pretty liberal city and very, very diverse. I have a lot of friends from Iran, from different Middle Eastern cities. In Boston, it's there's not a lot of hate toward minorities like in other places. This is sort of something that you don't necessarily know unless you've been to certain parts of different countries that are quite different than others. But I went to school in Boston. It's one of the most multicultural cities in the United States, probably. So many people and students from different parts of the world. Some of the greatest, educational centers in the U.S. I'm gonna play c takes d here, and the idea is I can't keep this tension forever. I'm not really happy about it, but I'm not happy to release the tension because you generally want to play in chess to maintain tension. The other player has less space. What I've done here is I played c takes d. We've opened up the bishop on c8, and that's a benefit for black. But I didn't really see how I'm going to play this position and maintain this tension for a very long period. He might take on c4 eventually. So what should I play in this position? If I want to maintain the tension, it's a bit awkward. I guess I can play b3. Maybe this is the move that I should play, rather than exchanging on d5. Thinking about it now, in retrospect, I'm almost certain I've had this exact position on the stream before. We do get this from time to time, but I think I would prefer it. Now thinking about it the second time, I've liberated his bishop on c8, and I think that was a mistake. 62 viewers. Time to celebrate with champagne. What is that supposed to mean, DST? What is 62? Because what? What is the average internet speed and cost in US? I don't know if you guys were talking about internet speed. I like my internet here better than in the US. I have cable in both places, but I think the problem with US internet providers is that they cheat. Basically they're providing better service if you pay a premium price. Whereas mostly in Europe they haven't figured out that angle yet, so they give you the best internet that you can get, like, for the same price. They haven't figured out how to cheat people with like cut speed internet, try to milk others for like more money. That's something that goes on with the American internet, and that's not really a problem here. They basically give you the best internet that they can give you. So I'm quite happy. I don't know. A high number of people. Well, DST, I think we're kind of average. I mean, I think we're around average. That's why I thought maybe you're being sarcastic or something, because we're not setting any records with like 62 viewers. But it's pretty. I think I've had 100 on a Monday once. And Sunday is good. We're over 100 on Sundays. So last night we did the simul stream. We're well over 100. 62 feels like a disappointment. 95 Maybe it's because I'm a little bit hoarse. Laz Hazier says, for what I get speed-wise, it's too much compared to other countries. It's probably European laws about internet. Yeah, well, I'm not sure it's going to get better now. Yeah, I mean, the monopoly situation and whatnot over there, you're just not getting the fast speeds that the internet providers can give you in the US. There's no doubt that my cable internet here is better than in New England. This bishop on d6. Maybe we go for him. It's a close position, and I don't think that bishops are necessarily that much better than knights. But this is his quote-unquote good bishop. He's got the most fundamental pawn on d5, another pawn on f7. White squares pawn, basically white square pawn chain. So his dark square bishop is the better bishop that he wants to hold on to. Don't see many chess streams that explains positions. Thank you. Well, I think, it's a thing, it's kind of time related. I don't think that I'm streaming at the ultimate time, but for me it's the best. I'm fresh, and during the day I have free time to do it, and maybe in the evenings would be more viewers, but we do what we can do. We have Discovery here winning the exchange. This is the last game for today, sadly, guys. I have to go. Again, thanks to Rabren, another international master who played with us here on the stream. And also, I'd like to thank all you guys for joining me. We do this Monday to Friday here on lichess, 10 to 12:30 Central European Time, i.e. GMT +1. We do try to be as instructive as possible. I want to help you guys learn and get some training for myself. So it's good for everybody. Getting tired. I'm gonna exchange knights on e7. We won the exchange, so the position doesn't win itself. It's fairly closed, so he can put up some resistance here. But I want to thank all of you for joining us, and also check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. Again, thanks to those who have donated via PayPal. We can use all the support we can get. I've been streaming for over a year now. The beginning of February was our first anniversary of streaming, and I think it's been successful. I also spend my time teaching chess privately, so if anybody's interested in lessons or training, send me an email. My chess email is videochesstrainer@gmail.com. And also, if you have any questions or suggestions for the stream, you can hit me up with an email, absolutely. I want to try to implement new ideas. I was thinking about doing maybe once a week, a longer stream. We can also talk about other stuff. I don't know, f3, I'm so tempted to play f3, but maybe it's not necessary to keep him off of e4. It kind of weakens my structure at the same time. Though I'm going to need to break this open at some point. How am I going to break this open? Maybe on the queen side? Queen side minority attack? I don't know. f3 controls this key square. I'm going to have to watch for e3. We'll be back tomorrow, guys, with more Blitz and Classical Chess. Endgame stuff would be nice. Maybe yeah, it would be interesting to have an analysis stream. That's another idea. But tomorrow I could also incorporate, these ideas into the YouTube channel and maybe do some endgame videos on the YouTube channel. Now here, part of me wants to exchange bishops exchange the bishop just because I'm a piece exchange up, and generally exchanging is good. But on the other hand, this bishop is so powerful. It's kind of kind of hard for me to part with it, but I think that knight could get dangerous coming to f5. We'll part with that piece. It's not going to be easy to win this game. It's pretty closed. My rooks, I'm up the exchange, but there's no open file. I mean, eventually I can play e4, it looks like. That's the other benefit of playing f3. He's beating me to the punch here with c5. This move is a little bit controversial, I think, because he's opening the position. He's opening the position in a situation where actually, you know, he's opening this position for my rooks. And I think that's very possibly the wrong idea here. Though he's getting short of time and he didn't know what to do. He's probably helping me. And like my first instinct was play e4, but I think I should just trade. If I trade, he takes with the rook, queen f2. And he almost has some pretty reasonable counterplay here. Almost. But he is in an awkward pin. I'm up a clear exchange. He doesn't have time to get the knight in the game, which he'd really like to do. You know, like get a knight to e3 to cause some havoc, create some havoc. Do you create havoc or cause havoc? Or wreak havoc? You could wreak some havoc with knight d5, knight to e3, but there's just no time. No time for the stream. Protagon is from Sweden. Is anyone here from Russia? There is from Russia? I'm not sure that we have anybody from Russia today. We had a guy earlier, Satis Troll, who I believe is from Russia. I'm going to force an exchange of rooks here. When you're up material, you want to trade down pieces, not necessarily pawns. I want to keep the pawns on the board to maybe promote. Yeah, if he trades queens and plays bishop takes a2, I have rook a1. So I'm going to pick off the a7 pawn there with an easily winning position. But he's done a good job staying in this game. Still kind of technical work to be done here. Bishop f1. f4. f4 is kind of weakening. This is not that easy. Not that easy to win. I don't want to blitz him. This is a very fundamental mistake a lot of people make, trying to play fast because he's in time pressure. It's not really a good idea in general. So let's see, what can we do? Hard to break it down, his position, that is. My bishop on g2 is not really working here. I'm not sure this is great, though. Trading bishops is possible. It would wreck my pawn structure. Well, now queen d... Oh, I have a trick. It's not really a trick. I mean, queen d2. Just a good move, I think. Just a good move. Forcing him... Well, I mean, he's forced to play this terribly awkward move here. Queen a3. And, I'm not winning out of hand, but black should eventually lose this. Alright, guys. So we will be back tomorrow. And if fate willing. What do you guys think? Are you talking about me? What? OTB in game 60, I was once down to 1 minute versus my opponent's 30 minutes. They blitzed the rest of the game, hung pieces, and lost. I lost to Grandmaster Attila Seba in a rapid game where he came to the board like with 1 minute left on the clock and lost as well. But it's not only like a question of blitzing them. That's a very, very difficult psychological place to be, you know. When this guy's giving you ridiculous time odds and you feel like the pressure is on you to win the game, it's actually very, very difficult for the side psychologically who has like 30 minutes and the other guy has like 1 minute. That was my problem. And I didn't really try to blitz him, but it's just a very, very hard situation to be in psychologically. All right, guys, we will be back tomorrow. Thanks for joining me again. Thanks for your donations via PayPal. And again, check out the YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. We will be uploading the streams there as well as one new video every week. Bye-bye.